My name's Jeremy Hanna. My Instagram's Uncle Jeremy. I started Sullen Clothing with my best friend.
I'm thinking back to the time when you guys started Sullen. Like, what was different about what you guys did?
Your name gets popped up in conversation with me a lot.
You know that it's been 5 years to the day? Bro, not even planned, to the day.
This is our 5-year anniversary.
Growing up without a dad, I feel like I've always been trying to fill that hole with some kind of masculine figure that is there to help me along the path.
I got a family. I got a wife, a couple teenagers, you know.
I've always been open to having mentors throughout my life, not only in tattooing, but in life.
Probably done maybe 20 podcasts. That was the best, easiest one I've ever done.
For real?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, that's sick. What's up, guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Hero and the Sage podcast. Before we get into that, I want to let you guys know that we just dropped our one-on-one coaching calls. Personalized experience with yours truly, so we can go over any pain points you might be having in your life or career. I'm super excited about this. I know a lot of you guys have been trying to get a little bit more personal with me about your situation, and this is a great way for us to do that. So head over to heroesxhaven.com for you to book your first call. Also, our Peaks and Valleys merch is dropping on our website, peaksandvalleysbrand.com. Go ahead and check that out. We got many different colorways. This is our Essentials Peaks and Valleys tee. Head over to the website to cop that. And then lastly, we have a vlog dropping of this entire trip that we took to go do this podcast. It was insane. It was so much fun, and we worked so hard on it. I want you guys to get a behind the scenes look of what that looks like so you guys can be integrated in our process. And now, onto the pod. For this episode, we have a very special guest. He is a huge name in the tattoo industry, the owner of Sullen Clothing, one of the biggest brands in tattooing. My good friend, check out our conversation with Uncle Jeremy. You guys known each other?
It's probably been about 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, okay. So it's a good amount of time.
Maybe 4 years. I think he was a year sober when I met him. He's 5 years sober now.
Damn, dude.
But I was pushing him. I'm like, man, you got such a good story, because he lost 19 years in the pen, and he was a gangbanger, did a lot of time, got out, was still a drug addict, and the way his story goes is he was kind of Sullen super fan, and his mom knew it. So his mom was like,
wow.
Listen, every week you test negative sober, I'll buy you 3 new shirts. So his mom bought him a new package of Sullen every week for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then finally she's like, all right, you're on your own. But he says, like, Sullen got me sober,
That's a crazy story, and that's such a unique way to like integrate Sullen into his recovery.
Yes.
Like, that's so like random, but
he's got stories
cool.
to tell. So I've been pushing him, like, hey, get on podcasts, get on the small ones, get on the big ones, get on all of them.
Yeah, dude.
Because it's practice, and then he gets on them, and he's a good storyteller, and he's very likable. And like, first impression, he's got all the face tattoos, he looks gnarly and everything, but then I'll go and read all the comments, and all these people relate to him,
Yeah.
Like he got on, I don't know if you're familiar with Soft White Underbelly.
Yeah, of course.
He got on there, and he was the
Great
first person to
Damn,
be
he was
asked
on
back.
there?
Yeah, he got asked back to be on a second time. His story was so good. So he's been on there twice.
And that means a lot, because I've seen some stories on there that are crazy.
At first, he told me about it. I go, I don't know if you should get on that one. I go, I listen, I watch it.
Right.
I go, but it's all like homeless and drug addicts and gay.
Extremes.
It's a lot of, troubled souls.
Yeah, and they're still troubled. Most of them are still troubled
Yes.
when they do the podcast,
Yes.
which is like, I guess that kind of set the theme for that podcast of like, let's get the perspective of the people that are still broken. And now you're having someone come on that is like post.
And I guess, I forget the guy's name. I think it's Mark. He's transitioning into, he didn't want to just do homeless dudes from downtown LA. He was transitioning. So Mohawk was a part of that transition. And then we got Freddie Negretti on there who told his story. And we have an end. We have a friend who can get, that'd be another good one to get you on.
No, yeah, for sure. That would be dope. We're good, guys? Okay, good. Fucking sick. Before I get into too much shit, bro, I know we were touching on this outside, but it's been 5 years since I've been here, because you were gracious enough to let me and Veer come here and get a tour before. But what I didn't mention is, did you know that it's been 5 years to the day?
Bullshit.
No, bro, not even planned. This is not even planned. And the only reason we found out is because Veer had like a memory pop up on his story of when we were here.
No way.
And it just so happened to be, bro, to the day.
This is our 5-year anniversary of you
To
being
the
here.
day. What the fuck? Like,
That's a trip.
it's crazy. And like, I was
That's
kind
a
of blown away. And the fact that you're, bro, my first guest, first of all,
thank you for being on it, because you didn't have any reason to say yes or anything. It's not like I've been doing this, but I knew if I wanted to get some good guests on, legit, bro, you were the first one I thought about. Like, you were the very first one.
Wow. Well, I know you can get a lot better than me, and I'd be happy to help you get any guys that maybe you haven't met yet.
That would be great.
You know, but your name gets popped up in conversation with me a lot, because you can't act like, okay, this might be your first podcast, but you're out there doing the damn thing. And I'm proud of you. I watch it. I see it. Like, so many times I have conversations, whether it's with, you know, the old timers that are kind of, you know, getting mad, you know, or the youngsters asking me marketing ideas.
Right.
And a lot of times, you know, there's so many people that are like, well, I don't know what to create. I don't know what content, you know, and I'll reference you, you know, because like we talked about earlier, you know, it's like 5 years ago, you were doing shit. Like, I wanted to fuck with you because I could tell you were making moves.
Right.
Which I would have guessed I was like maybe 3 years ago, 3 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, if you had to guess,
years.
but I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
You look the same, bro. It looks like you don't age. It's
Good.
crazy. Yeah.
Just a little bit white in my beard.
And I think that 5 years ago, it was my attempt at like trying to spread my wings in a way, like, because when you're a tattoo artist, it's hard to understand, like, where am I going to go from here? If there is anything else, what am I going to do? If I do content, what type of content am I going to do? So my goal at that point was really to collaborate with anybody that I could. That's the only idea I had, right?
Yeah. I remember you reached out asking about tattooing on Sullen TV.
Yeah.
That's how the conversation started. But I mean, you know, a lot of artists, I feel, you know, sometimes they're their own worst enemy, you know, 100%. And the fact that you put your balls on the table and you go for it, you know, it's like it's easier said than done. Mm-hmm. Even myself, people will ask me advice, and I'll try to give advice, but at the same time, as I'm talking, I'm almost talking to myself, you know, because I could do so many things better. I could do, you know, so much better storytelling and content creation. I'm not saying we're half-assing it over here, but we can always do better. But I love people like yourself that put those blinders on and go for it.
Thank you, man. And it's definitely a perspective thing, because I probably feel the same way about my stuff as you feel about your stuff. And from my perspective of me doing it, obviously I could see so many holes in like how I do. So I could do it so much better. I could do more. And if I was only a little more like this, then I could be better. But I think that attaching yourself to the outcome and the impact that you have on people that do watch, and attaching to that like purpose, allows you to kind of get rid of all that self-negative talk and just kind of zone out and just do it. Because no matter how it turns out, it's just like art. Sometimes you can't be so precise. You have to let it flow. And when you let it flow, some of the best stuff gets created. Right. And I think that too many people try to overthink or overplan or script or this and that. Every time I've tried to script something, it turned out way worse, dude.
Or what about even like this? You know, it's like I see, because there's a lot of tattooers out there that all they post is their work. You don't even know what they look like.
Exactly.
I'll be friends with people, and I'm about to meet them at a convention for the first time, because we've only been online friends. Excuse me. And I'm sitting here, you know, searching their tagged photos just to see what homeboy looks like. You know, I don't know.
And
what
you
he
can't
looks
find
like.
any of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know what they sound like. You know what they look like. You know, but for you, you know, what do you call your videos you've been putting up on the ground? Like tutorials or like
live Q&As?
Q&As, yeah.
Yeah.
But like for me, and even though, like I said, even though I preach this to everybody, I'm still like, every podcast I do, it's more so afterwards, like, oh, should I said that? Oh, is that going to get me in trouble? You know, but I got to stop giving a fuck.
Yeah, dude.
I really do. You know, I did that podcast, you know, another podcast last week, and sure enough, next day I'm texting him like, hey, such and such conversations give me anxiety. Can we edit that one thing out? I shouldn't have thrown them under the bus, you know?
Dude, that's crazy, because that's like the first thing that comes to mind when I think about me podcasting. I'm like, I know how I am. And I know that after the podcast, I'm going to be like thinking back on it and like thinking about every little thing I said. Or what's even worse is what I should have said, or like what I should have brought up, especially when you're talking to like good guests like yourself. I feel like there's so much that I'm personally curious about you, believe it or not, that like I don't want to miss anything. But sometimes you just got to let it flow. And then.
But on that note, it's good. It's kind of a good problem that you feel comfortable. Like if I say something I shouldn't have, that's because I felt comfortable sitting there.
Right, and that's really how you felt.
Yeah. You just forget, like, oh, maybe that was something that should have been kept private, and that's something I gotta get better at, you know.
Or just let it rip, you know.
Or be that guy, because there's some people out there, and I'm a podcast YouTube guy. You're like, whoa, did he just say that?
Yeah.
Or, oh, what's the comments going to be about? And sometimes it'll slip through the cracks and there won't be a damn comment about it. But then there's other times where people will clip it and get it out there and, you get your haters. But yeah, you can't care.
Yeah, I think that people flock to authenticity, and the more authentic you could do, the better. And when you start clipping things out, even one little thing, I feel like you're going in the opposite direction of authenticity. So as close as you can get to how you really feel and how you would normally talk in a normal conversation, I think that's where the good podcasts do well,
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that might be watching might not, especially some of the younger, newer tattoo artists, might not know who you are. How would you describe to them who you are if you were just going to give them a quick,
My name's Jeremy Hanna. My Instagram's Uncle Jeremy. I started Sullen Clothing with my best friend over 20 years ago. It's a tattoo art-driven brand. Probably about 70% of our shirt graphics are done by tattooers from all around the world.
Yep.
30%, freelance graphic designers, graffiti artists in general. No, man, we stay humble over here. I know there's people right next door and right across the street that have never heard of us.
Right.
I like to think of us as kind of like still an underground feel, the little big guy, big little guy. No, we're not tiny. Yes, we're in some mall retail shops. We have been around. Luckily enough, people like our stuff where we've been in business for a couple decades,
Right.
and we're keeping the lights on. Wherever the tattoo community is strong, you're going to see Sullen, and I can confidently say that. You go to a tattoo, you might have never seen Sullen anywhere. You come to a tattoo convention.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet money that you're going to run into a few Sullen shirts before you leave the
A
building.
few fucking
So
50% of the building probably has Sullen shirts.
and
on.
that's where we thrive. Luckily, tattoos go hand in hand with so much stuff.
That's how you get your broader reach.
Yeah, it's how because we got in a chain store somewhat recently, and I thought we were going to be too edgy for them. I thought we were going to
Right.
be too dark for them, but we're killing it. It's the Buckle. The Buckle's in they got like 500 shops in all the malls across America, and we're in Tilly's. We've been in Macy's and Zoomies, and it's different. But the Buckle's the first store where we're front table. We're front wall on the side. Like we get prominent displays all
Yeah.
over. We're on the mannequin, so it's like that's really helped kind of open eyes to some of the younger generation and new faces, which has been cool.
It's funny because I bet you there's some people that see Sullen, they don't even know that it started its roots in tattooing
Right.
because they see it in a Buckle. I like Buckle for you guys because it's broader than like a Tilly's, because I know Tilly's is huge, but there's a type of clothing that goes into Tilly's, right?
Yeah.
In Buckle, you guys stand out that has more character than
Yeah.
anything else that they have in there. Like you said, you're front and center there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what I'm so curious about with Sullen is because you're not a tattoo artist.
I'm not a tattooer. My best friend is. I'm a tattoo collector, and I've
Is
always
your best friend your partner or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
go.
my business partner Ryan Smith, he's the wizard. He's the Oz behind the business. He's not the social butterfly that I am. He sits behind his computers and creates the lines
But
and the
that's
catalogs of the
needed.
web.
That's needed.
Oh yeah, we're the yin and yang. We're very different, but known him since grammar school, and
Damn.
like he's great at what he does. He likes keeping me out on the road, networking and showing face. So yeah, we make a good team. I handle all the marketing, social media, content, PR, events, and he's the one. He's dealing with the artists. He's creating the lines, all the production, overhead,
Yeah.
all the unfun stuff.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me to think that you guys are so respected. And I'm thinking back to the time when you guys started Sullen, and I'm trying to figure out, a lot of people start clothing brands.
Yeah.
People start clothing brands every day. And I'm wondering how your guys' rise happened and how you got so many connections in the tattoo industry and became like a household name brand in it. Like, what was different about what you guys did from someone else that started something similar?
I think a lot of it was Ryan. When we first started, the first 5 or 6 years, even though it had a tattoo aesthetic to it, Ryan didn't really want to go tattoo because he came from an old school apprenticeship.
Sure.
So he knew the culture was protected, and so he was a little weary of it.
And at the time, it was smaller, no?
It was much smaller,
Yeah.
yeah. We ran it out of our apartment for the first, few years in a tiny little warehouse 5 years after that. But it luckily happened organically. But Ryan, there was a time when he first started sitting and drawing with a few of the guys, like 3 of our first artists were like Nico Hurtado, Carlos Torres, Tom Berg. You know.
Wow.
So having, Nico and Carlos, Tom's amazing, but he's not real active on social. Excuse me. But having those 2 guys as 2 of our first guys, of course, it was like all the stars are aligning. But Ryan would like help them design their DVD covers, their business cards, he web design. So he came in and then he'd sit and draw and paint with them. And whether it's, charcoal or acrylics or, a pencil, like Ryan gets down. So
right.
And he also graduated from the Art Center of Pasadena. It's like the '2 art school in the nation. He graduated with honors. So he has an old school apprenticeship, tattooing 25 years, but whether it's, web design, sitting down and painting.
A knack for it. He's got a knack for all of that.
And I'm not an artist. You would know this better than I, but sometimes I'll see artists get together and they do that art talk, where they're speaking
That's
another
my favorite
language.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tattoo language is my favorite language.
So I don't speak that language. I overhear Ryan talk to everybody, but they respect him for a different reason, because he's very talented. And
yeah,
for
he
me,
walks the walk when it comes to talking to the tattoo artists and stuff. He actually does it.
Yeah, like master painters like Sean Barber. He's doing collaboration paintings with him.
Damn, dude, I didn't know that he was that far along where he already knew some of these guys when you guys were in the early years. And
he knew of them as a fan. He was just a street shop tattooer, but he'd go to the old ink slingers balls and everything, and he made me a fan of this industry. So it's like I know tattoo talk a little bit more, where I'm a true fan, but I was also self-conscious because I know the whole tattoo owner owned and operated kind of vibe. I knew I wasn't a tattooer, so for that reason I was like, all right, I'm gonna get tattooed like a motherfucker.
Yeah, just so you can look the part too.
Like I remember hearing BJ Betts on a podcast. He's like, "Oh fuck yeah, I fuck with Jeremy and Ryan. Ryan, can tattoo with the best of them, and Jeremy's tattooed more tattooed than most of the tattooers out here."
There you go. So you kind of got your in that way.
Oh, I got my arm. I've
seen you got tattooed.
I'm pretty much full body suit. So and I'll give my tattooer friends a hard time. They take off their shirt and they got nothing. I'm like, "What's up?" Man?
Yeah, dude. And they have
or they don't have sleeves or nothing.
Shit. How do you feel about tattoo artists that don't have any tattoos?
I give them a hard time.
Yeah, me too, dude.
I give them a hard time. I got a couple friends that finally have been jumping on and getting some, but there's a few of them out there that for a minute, and I'm like, come on, man.
Their excuses are so like, there's this one person I want to get tattooed by, but I just don't got the time to go. Like, it's so like they're so particular, and like they've never even jumped the gun to get one tattoo, so it just sounds weird to me.
Absolutely.
And it's like, if you've never felt what a tattoo feels like on yourself, how are you going to know what you're doing to people? And that's the main thing.
That's what bothers me the most. It's like, and I like the old school vibe of the tattoo world as well.
Sure.
I like seeing a tattooer just blasted, from head to toe. I was like, fuck yeah, that's the way it should be,
Right,
or getting tattooed by people they're fans of or in the shop. But at the same time, I do understand, I hear this all the time. I'm sure, you agree, like guys in the shop who talk about tattooing each other, and then 3 years later, they're still talking about it.
Yep.
It's almost like tattooing your girlfriend. You guys get nervous tattooing, girlfriends or wives, because you got to look at it every day.
Dude.
So it's just,
who you telling, bro?
It's easier to push it off, right?
Well, I also, because I tattoo my girl a lot, right? And I love doing it and stuff, but I'm so particular that something that would normally take me 6 hours would probably take me 10. Mm-hmm. And she hates it because, like, it's good work and shit, but at the same time, she's like, damn, like, I know this is going to take forever. But you're right. I got to look at it, and that's, like, a super big deal to me because I'm so critical of myself, which is a good thing and a gift and a curse because that's also why I'm able to do the tattoos I do. But it's also, like, I'm never satisfied with, like, the littlest shit. You wouldn't notice it. He wouldn't know. No one would notice the thing I'm tripping off of, but it's always the little thing. I'm like, damn, that little part right there, So...
or like unfinished tattoos. You guys will start each other. I mean, so many of my tattooer friends have unfinished work.
And how many? They're like, oh, I'm gonna get it fixed. I'm gonna get it finished in we're gonna do it in a few months. Yeah. 3 years later, they don't even have it. They still got an outline or something.
My wife, she's getting a back piece from Jeshen, and she just had her second sitting on Sunday. Yeah, it's sick. I mean, from neck down to the bottom of her cheeks, a tiger walking down. She's going for it. And we were having this conversation, about how she's on sitting 2. I'm like, if you were to guess, and I was talking to his assistant, not Jess, but I'm like, how many sittings do you think this is going to be? And she was stumped. She's like, to be honest, most people don't get their backs finished. They start it, and not all of them will complete it to the end, you know?
I would have never thought that, because he's doing back pieces all the time, but
Yeah.
you would imagine that he's finishing them all the time. But you're right. It's probably like more people are starting them and then less people are finishing it. And it's like kind of sucks for the artist too, because you don't get that satisfaction of finishing it. And it's all up to the fucking client to come.
Yeah.
And if they don't come, you don't get that satisfaction.
Yeah.
Dude, that sucks kind of.
Yeah. That's frustrating. I mean, I don't know, probably financial reasons or whatever.
Of course. It's a many reasons, right? But I usually try to have my clients, if we're agreeing on a sleeve, we try to book all the sessions out ahead of time. Like I try to knock it out, you know? Like I'm like, hey, if you're looking for a sleeve or a back piece or this or that, if that's really what you want, let's get it done.
Yeah.
Let's do it, right? And I understand Japanese and black and gray and all that is different and how you go about it and stuff, but I try to get them on the same page mentally of like, hey, we're going to do this, and if you're ready and you got the money and you got this and you got this aligned, let's just fucking do it, because the longer you wait, you're going to fumble, something happens, life happens, blah, blah. But let's do like 3 days now. Like me and Jessa, my girl, we're working on you know the dinosaur front panel that me and her did?
Yeah.
So
incredible.
Thank you. We're doing that same guy's back.
Okay.
And we're going to bring him to Golden State. We're trying to blow the front panel out of the water. It's a little tough because it's crazy, but we got a crazy back piece that we're doing. So
you guys going 3 days?
So we already did 3 days on him. Me and her both on him at the same time. Roughly, I want to say 8 to 10 hours a day. And right when we get back from LA on Thursday, we have another 3 days with him. We should be able to finish in that 3 days, and then anything after that will probably be a touch-up. But we're excited to do that. But it's a lot of work. And
so what are you doing at Golden State? The touch-up?
Touch-up.
Yeah.
I don't really want to I don't really like tattooing that much at conventions, especially since there's so much like interaction to be had. Because
I don't know if I've ever seen you have a booth. A lot of times
we've
cruising.
had booths for sure. We've had booths mostly.
I feel like every time I run into you, you're not tattooing, you're cruising around the shows.
Right, 100%. But Golden State is our favorite convention. Just A, because it's close, and B, it's the best vibe that I've ever felt. And I understand there used to be the one in London, and there used to be this and that. But Golden State is close, and everyone goes to it.
Yeah.
And it's a good energy. The venue is not super compact and like claustrophobic. I went to Empire State one year, not to tattoo, but I was doing something with Ink Mag. It felt claustrophobic
Different
in there,
vibe.
dude. I
Yeah.
was like, whoa.
It is.
It's like in a lobby of a hotel, it feels like.
Yeah, they stack it 3 levels of,
Right.
of a hotel
That's what
ballroom.
made it feel weird.
Yeah.
Like I was upstairs on the top floor walking, hella small walkway, and there's Nico Hurtado right there. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, so yeah, Golden State feels really nice and stuff. We will have a booth. We got like a 5-wide booth.
Hell yeah.
What I really want to do is set up a small section where I could sit down, like the Q&As that I do on Instagram. So if any of the fans or anybody wants to ask me some questions, they could sit down, ask some questions like in this style, and I'll answer it, and then we clip it for Instagram. So it's kind of cool to do that in person so that they could be a part of the clips and shit. So that's fun. And then, if I had my head down tattooing the whole time, I don't feel like I would get the full benefit of being at a convention. And I tell all my artists that conventions are super important, because if you're just a tattoo artist in a shop and you're just kind of head down doing your thing, you kind of forget what you're a part of. And refreshing your perspective on the industry and being like, wow, there's a lot of people that do what I do and they're doing it really well. And being a part of the community is like a huge part of you taking solace in being a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Because if you're just like never been to a convention, you're just tattooing in your little hole in the wall fucking corner. It's so like barely a job. It's like you're just trying to bang out tattoos. Maybe you think you're the best and you get this big head, and you realize when you go to a convention, like, oh, there's some fucking people doing great work out there.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, like I know you've been doing killer work for years now. You know, Black Ink.
Right.
You're out there, but now I feel like with your Q&As, you're getting out there even more and more. So there's probably a lot more people that are seeing you that might not have seen you 5 years ago, and seeing your face, hearing your voice. You know, not only that, but like sometimes I'll go hop on the comments and I see, you know, older or well-respected tattooers taking part in the conversation.
Yes.
Or like I said, if I bring up your name, people that I feel like I'm telling them for the first time, they're like, oh yeah, I seen that, you know, like I feel like,
which is crazy, dude. Like,
it's great.
And it's humbling for sure. And the fact that I've had some of the OGs in my comments, like I don't think they know, because from their perspective, I'm just like a new guy, right? And like I'm new school tattooer. I'm just like a that type of new generation and shit. I feel like I fall somewhere in between just because I'm definitely not like a Gen Z tattooer, right?
Yeah.
I've felt what it's like to it being a little harder than what it is now.
And I see you paying respects.
I try to, dude, and it's tough because they want to some people just try to, first impression, they just judge me immediately, and it's always on the extreme part of being like, oh, you're a new tattoo, you don't know what shit, you don't know shit. But I'm like, yeah, but I feel you though. I even know who you are. You don't even know that I know who you are, like the OG tattooers. And I'm like, bro, I've been watching you since I was a kid and since I started tattooing, all of this stuff. Even Sullen, when I very first started tattooing, I get so obsessive about shit that I'm doing that when I started tattooing, I was looking up any content that I can about tattooing. The main thing that I consumed was Sullen TV. The main
watched
one.
a lot of the videos?
Bro, I memorized every video you guys got uploaded, especially considering you guys haven't uploaded in a couple years or something. I've memorized all of them. All the Bernadette doing the conventions and shit before I ever went to a convention. All of the Under the Skins, the portfolio peaks. So even when we came 5 years ago and got to do a little portfolio peak, I think is what we did, that was like a dream come true. As small as it might seem or whatever, it was like, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now.
Full circle.
And it was, full circle, 100%. And then now that we're here 5 years later, and I remember when we were here the last time, I remember talking to you in your office, and I was like, man, is there something that we could do together so this doesn't just end? Like, I didn't want the relationship to be like, oh, yeah, this kid came by and I showed him some shit and he was cool, but now I never talked to him again. I always try to, like, how can we solidify this relationship so I could, like, know you over the years and stuff like that. I didn't really have much in my head at the time because I was a little lost, but I think it's really cool that we get to come back and have a deeper now we could do the podcast. Now there's more to do, and I've came into my own a little bit. I've grown up. I've learned a lot in 5 years in life too, you know.
But you already had success then.
Yeah.
You were already killing it 5 years ago, you know? Like I was a fan of your work 5 years ago, so, and you're still in your 20s.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I'm proud
I'm almost
of you.
30.
Still in your 20s.
And thank you. But
No,
I
I'm proud
know,
of you.
dude, why is it that I feel old sometimes, and then sometimes when I'm talking to people I'm like, yeah, I guess I am really young, dude.
Yeah.
I guess I just been through a lot of shit, dude, and it's
That's
like
it.
I had a hard childhood, like homeless most of my life, for a big chunk of my life. And then even when we did get a spot to stay at, it was in the hood, like straight hood. So I had to deal with that dynamic, getting jumped every day, and I'm the only white kid in the neighborhood, and going to school was hard. And so when people talk to me and they see me now, they think they have a perspective on who I am just by me talking. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're good and all this stuff. I'm like, bro, my life didn't start getting good until I found purpose and I found a direction. And then even deeper into that, like, figured out, like, finding yourself in something, you know, like trying to learn about yourself and shit. I wouldn't say until mid-20s my life started to really start to shape up.
But think about all those obstacles and bullshit you had to go through.
Yeah.
That made you who you are. So I almost feel like, you know, you got to have those rough days. You have to have failures. When people have it too easy, I don't think you're able to get as far, you know?
100%. I do actually try to put myself in the perspective of someone who has it easy for growing up, and I would kind of not like it, to be honest. It seems like a rough road to take because, you know, some people won't even respect you just because of how you came up.
Right.
And then it's like you have to fight through gaining your own motivation to do stuff in the world, even though you have everything that you need. And it's like it's hard to have that fire in your belly if you've never tasted the bottom.
Yeah.
And I think I've been so ambitious is just because of that in itself. It's because I was so far at the bottom. It was such a depressing, like, lost, no direction life that I just always had the ambition to flip that on its head and do the opposite. So I know my ambition and, like, me wanting to do extra stuff is, like, off-putting to some people along the path, even old bosses, you know, I've been through a ton of drama. And the only thing that sucks about that is I've always felt like I came from a good place. Like, I came from good intentions. I came from, like, I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm not trying to this. But it's so hard for you to put yourself out there and people not think that you're cocky, no matter how you put yourself out there. Because they wouldn't put themselves out there. So they see people that do, and they think, oh, they must be a cocky, narcissistic person. And I'm like, not really, bro. Like, I'm actually trying to do this in the most, like, humble way as possible. I'm not tooting my own horn ever. And I just want to basically, I've always had, like, a thirst for wisdom and a thirst for knowledge and stuff, right? I've always been open to having mentors throughout my life, not only in tattooing, but in life. I've had many mentors in my life. Growing up without a dad, I feel like I've always been trying to fill that hole with some kind of masculine figure that is there to help me along the path and like teach me things and coping mechanisms and different things about life to where I could actually accomplish stuff without just breaking down, right? So that's been a big journey of mine. And I think what's cool about the podcast and what I'm so excited about is I get to use it as my own way of gaining knowledge from people that I respect. Of course, I'll interview people that are going to learn stuff from me, but I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to learn about you, and I want to know certain things, right? And I think it's more about that than it is me teaching people on the podcast, right?
Yeah, but I think you're a little bit of an old soul and you're a chameleon, whereas like you can talk to an old dude like me, and you can take some youngsters, beginners, under your wing and really teach them a lot, and trust me, not everyone's going to be into Sullen. I can't wear half the stuff we make. A lot of the loud graphics are the best sellers. I like some of the more mellow stuff.
100%.
But like I said, luckily there's enough people that like our stuff where we're still around, but not everyone's going to like our stuff. For me personally, I try to win them over one person at a time. It's like you can judge me, you can pretend like you know who I am and you know who Ryan is and you know what Sullen's all about, but meet me face to face, spend 10 minutes with me, and hopefully I can win you over. And if not, who gives a fuck,
Have you always had that attitude of like, I don't care what you think of me, or did you have to develop that over time?
No, yeah, I have. I've always liked making friends. In high school, my parents used to leave every weekend, so I was known to have like the biggest house parties in high school.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that helped me start solo.
Yeah,
so it's like I always had a party crew around me. So when I started soloing on my couch, we already had heads over all the time just because we had just a big crew with us. But I've always been a little bit of a pussy where I want everyone to like me. I don't have that. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't have that chip on my shoulder. I want everyone to like me. So when I hear, oh, so-and-so, I'm like, oh, what do we do to him?
Right.
But I'm learning. Like I'm reading this book right now, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Bro, I've read it 10 times.
Yeah, I'm halfway through it. My new favorite saying is that, you only have so many fucks to give. Is this important enough to give a fuck about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
And I got family. I got a wife, a couple teenagers, I'm trying not to be bad dad and workaholic, which I was guilty of in the past. I'm getting better at it now, getting home. But, let them hate. When we're all old and on our deathbed,
It's not going to matter.
I'm not going to be thinking about that. Dude, one of my favorite words is legacy. It's not like I'm trying to make the history books, but at the same time, I want a good reputation. I want people to think I'm a good dude. We created something cool, and I get to meet all these cool, creative motherfuckers all around the world and make friends with people like yourself that are doing things. That's fun. That's exciting. That's what this is all about.
Dude, you're right. And it is a blessing to be a part of something like this where you could touch so many people. But it is interesting to hear that you've always been the type that wanted people to like you. I feel like I've been that way. But I feel like mine stems from, like, if you don't like me and someone says some shit about you that they don't like, isn't there always some kind of truth in it that makes you feel like it's personal attack? Like, like they'll say some shit and you're like, ooh, that hit a little too close to home. I know that was one comment out of 1,000 good ones, but that one comment for some reason sticks because it had some form of
laying in bed thinking about it.
Yeah, dude, you're like, what the fuck? Wait, did he just pull out my smallest insecurity and then just fucking put it on Front Street? And I'm like, dude, like, please don't do this. But,
and I know we have to read. I have to read the comments for customer service reasons.
Right.
But there's a lot of times.
I'm surprised you don't have someone do that for you.
Well, we do have a team.
Okay, yeah.
There's a team of us that run all of it. But sometimes, the comments are stacking on something that be slightly controversial. And I'll just be like, you know what? Let it roll. I'm not even going to look at this one, Of course, my guys will tell me if something, but, whether it's, I don't know, a hot chick or something and the girls are hating, I don't know what example. But, you hear Joe Rogan say, don't even read the comments.
Yeah. I mean, it's a balance, though, because I hear him say that, and I'm like, yeah, don't read the comments. But especially at our level, I still feel like we're tiny as fuck, right? I'm like, I need to engage with people, right? So it's like that. There's a value in that, too, especially the people that want to comment on some of the Q&A videos. They want to be part of the conversation. If you want them to comment again and engage again, it's good to let them know that they're being seen when they comment. And I know they all conversate with each other, which I like even more. I like it when, like, you know, an OG puts a comment and then someone else comments and agrees with them, and then someone disagrees. And and then now there's like this 100-comment thread of a conversation.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're arguing and shit.
Yeah, but you still want conversations to flow. I mean, but isn't that cool though? I mean,
I think it's dope.
And to have the OGs hopping on there and talking.
Dude,
you know, I mean, of course there's going to be some negativity or haters or whatever, but the positivity and having these respected tattooers hop on there far outweighs all the bullshit,
100%. Right? And I think you mentioned that you might be able to get me in with some of the guys, some of the tattoo artists and stuff. I really think it would be so dope if I was able to get some of those OG guys on the podcast, because I don't think it's ever been done where someone that is more younger like myself and has a perspective on the way the new generation is coming in versus someone who has strictly been old school their whole life. I think there's a gap to bridge.
Yes.
And I don't feel like it's been done yet. Even every panel that's been made, everything that has been made for tattooing has all been OG artists or old school people that have owned businesses, you know, Mario Barth and all this stuff, but no one is up there to represent like younger people.
You're right.
Right.
I was thinking about that this morning, and I know you don't need my help. You're well on your way, but I was thinking like, yeah, we all got access to DMs. You can reach out to anybody. You can call any shop. But I was thinking that I'm like, I bet there's some OGs that I could text them and tell them, hey, this will be a good look for you. You should do this podcast. I'd be happy to help you.
Dude, that would be so
because I
sick.
agree. I think you know, there's some old timers who get stuck in their ways, and they're great, but they just, you know. And then there's some other guys, you know, like Freddie Negretti is a perfect example. Like, he loves talking to youngsters. He loves learning new things and having them push him, you know, and he just continues to get better and better, you know.
Yeah, and I think that having an open mind, even as you get older, is how you keep yourself young, basically. And it keeps you in the game, keeps you in the conversation. Like, I respect the hell out of Freddie Negretti. He's one of my favorite guys, and I know you know him personally and stuff, and he would be one of the greatest. Like, if I got him on the pod, I won, you know, like.
No, consider it done. I'm pretty confident he'll hop on here with you. He's cool like that, and you know, like, you got to stay relevant. Even these guys, they could be booked out a year, but you gotta stay relevant.
Well, I know that Freddie Negretti started his the convention, because you guys had the first convention that he did, and you guys are trying to make it a regular thing. Yeah. And I'm sad I didn't make the first one because I didn't hear about it ahead of time enough. 100% we're going to the next one. I bet, dude. How was the turnout?
You know, like, I was very hands-on helping him out with it from all the beginning, infant conversations, and we, you know, promoted the fuck out of it, even though I'm not a partner on it. Freddie's a dear friend of mine. I love him to death.
That's nice of you.
And I remember Friday night when they were having the tattoo competition, I was walking up and I see all the crowds and I'm looking around and I'm like, success. It's happening. And then day 2 was good. So it felt good, you know, like their spirits were up. They sold out of all their booths. They got through all the health department hiccups, and all of us were lecturing the health department because, you know, it's like Ontario, they probably got 3 ladies in an office dealing with all this stuff.
Damn.
And then they're coming up and they're trying to tell him he needs, you know, sinks and it's like, guys, I pulled one aside and I'm like, listen, I said, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I said, let's all work together and make this
Instead
work.
Of like being combating.
Yeah, like let's bring this back every year. Let's be a team and make this be successful so we can bring all these people to make money for Ontario for the next decade, you know. And the girl that I was talking to, maybe she didn't even need to hear that because she was a sweetheart, you know, walking around
the other guys,
clipboard.
maybe.
Well, they got through it, you know. They compromised. They had to go grab like 10 or 20 more sinks and put them in spotted places where no one even used them, but whatever. It was a successful show. They already got the dates for next year. Super proud of Freddie. There was a void there. You know, Golden State has its niche, and it's great. You know, Marco does Golden State. He puts on a great show, and we go big at that one as well. But now you got one out in the Inland Empire, which is, for those who don't know, the IE is east of LA. It's pretty much like the desert, an hour from the beach. But that's a whole other scene, you know, Riverside County, that has tons of great, you know, tattooers and legends, from musicians, skaters. It's still Southern California, you know, like Southern California still breeds innovation and you know, hard workers or whatever. But yeah, I'm proud of Freddie. Yeah, you got to go next year.
I'm super excited about that and to have him on. And
sorry to cut you off. They also had a podcast room. They
no way,
because Chris Wynn does a podcast every once in a while. He's not as consistent with it, but they had a room for podcasts so you could bring people in. So I'm sure they'd be happy to work with you on that.
Dude, conventions is probably, I think about like how I'm gonna travel to all these people and because we're traveling to people right now. Like I'm not expecting like if I hit you up to be on my podcast, I'm not expecting you to come to me. That's like ridiculous. I'm gonna make it as easy as possible.
Yeah,
on
you got a team. You got a team.
Yeah,
there.
and it's kind of fun. You know, you kind of make a trip of it. You know, we're vlogging the trip too. It's more content and it just makes it fun. I don't really get the chance to travel that much because I got the shop and all of that. But now it gives me like a purpose to travel and stuff. So
Are you knocking out any other podcasts on this trip?
we were trying to get one tomorrow morning. Alexi,
From the Vatican?
yeah, from Vatican. He wasn't able to confirm a time with me or anything like that, but that was kind of scrappy trying to get a second one last minute. You were the main reason why we were coming out here. And like I said, I got to go right back and start that 3-day back-to-back on the back piece and shit. So I really didn't have that much time anyways. But in the future, it would be better if we could knock out multiple on one trip because it just make the money worth it because the hotels and flying these guys out and doing all that stuff, right? And that's the thing is like it takes like effort and money to fund a podcast, especially a traveling one. But I believe in it so much, and I feel like it aligns with. I talk too much, bro, as for a regular person. I talk a lot.
Do you remember the first time he came out here?
What, was I talking your ear off
we
or
both
something?
were, because
Okay.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, dude. Fuck.
And that's one of the biggest things when I do podcasts and I re-listen to it, I'll just be like, Jeremy, shut the fuck up. You talk too much and you talk too fast. So I'm trying to get better at just being a good listener and just not rambling. But I remember when you edited your video, you made a comment like that. You're like, I met somebody who talks a lot like me or something like that.
Okay.
You made some comment where it was like, me and Jeremy talking to each other, something like that, but I chuckled.
No, I love that it makes you easy to talk to, though, and I feel like that's how I am, too. But you're right. Every once in a while, I got to check myself. Am I talking too much? Did I let them talk enough? Am I going all on a tangent right now and going crazy? But I talk too much for a regular person. I feel like I talk just enough for a podcaster.
I was asking Jose Mangan downstairs. He runs, Liquid Metal and Octane. You saw the stage set up downstairs, and he
Beautiful.
When we got our podcast going, I was asking him, even though he's not a podcaster, he's a radio personality. The dead air part. I think sometimes I ramble in some of my very first podcasts or radio interviews. I would talk so much and talk so fast. I think I was afraid of dead air. And he's like, no, don't be afraid of that. He's like, it builds suspense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've listened to like Howard Stern, but there's sometimes, I haven't listened to him in years, but when I used to, there'd be times where it'd be so silent for like 10 seconds, you'd think the radio cut out.
Yeah.
But he was just thinking. Or like even like sometimes you'll watch like an Elon Musk interview and they'll ask him a question.
He's the slowest guy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's sitting there thinking. But there's no rules. You can think for 15 seconds before you answer a question. You don't need to ramble it off. You can think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's me saying it out loud, telling myself that probably.
No, it's funny, but I agree though because I've also intentionally tried to get better at speaking as far as articulating myself and saying less and like less and stuff like that. Instead of saying and saying all this filler words while you're thinking, it's okay to go silent for a second while you're letting your mind catch up to what you're going to say and then saying it. And even though to you as the person doing it, it might feel like dead air, it's actually part of what you're saying. And it works.
It makes it more real.
It sounds
too.
better.
Yeah.
It just sounds cleaner. It sounds like you're really thinking about the point you're trying to make instead of just shooting words out. And it makes it feel like you're being more intentional with what you're saying. Like Elon Musk, dude.
And like Jose says, it builds like suspense, like, oh, he's thinking.
It's like a dramatic pause.
Yeah, dramatic pause. Like, uh-oh, something's good about to come out.
Yeah, dude. And then you say something and it's bullshit. I'm like, God damn it. Fuck, that's what I'm scared of.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah. And like I said, like you could plan too much ahead, especially for these podcasts. Like I'm like, man, how much planning should I do? How much like free flow should I do? And I know there's I ended up settling on having a couple of notes of stuff I wanted to bring up, but generally not too specific. Because once we get into the flow of things, like how it's already been, I've already flowed through a lot, bro. Like, and it's in it without effort. And I feel
you
like
and I, we hit it off.
Yeah.
It's like you hit it off with some people you don't. But I liked you from the get, and I know every time we've ran into each other, it's always been good vibes. So I wasn't nervous about this one.
No, I wasn't either. I think the only thing that was nerve-wracking was the build-up because we had to travel here, we had this setup, we had to do. So there's so much time going before it. All for like an hour or so podcast, right? So there's hours and hours and hours of build up, right? But I knew I kept telling this to myself. I'm like, dude, I feel so comfortable with Jeremy, bro. Like, I literally feel like you're my honorary uncle. And it's like, ever since I knew your Instagram was Uncle Jeremy, I'm like, bro, that's like my uncle, bro.
That's
like,
right,
I'm
nephew.
telling you. Yeah, exactly. So every time I see you at conventions and shit, it's like super dope over the years to even see you there, because when I was first going to conventions, I was like nervous and shit. I didn't know nobody. And anytime I would see someone that knew who I was or I knew who they were, I was excited. I was like, oh, cool, someone to talk to. So every time I see you at a convention, it feels like, oh, yes, finally. Okay, someone I really fuck with, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, fuck.
You were bringing up earlier, you know, after the first time we met, how you wanted to continue the relationship.
Right, yeah.
I'm always gonna tug on my artist friend's shirt. Or on your sleeve. We still don't have a Sullen shirt with you, man. That's the way to really build the relationship. Get a Sullen shirt with your name on it. Of course, like there's plenty of tattooers that, you know, and Ryan, I tell everyone, Ryan's a picky motherfucker. Like you know,
you told me that before.
He's very picky and selective, but at the same time, there's some people where he'll communicate with a little bit more and give direction or change this, change that. Let's do something like this. Sometimes it might even be collaboration art, but there's a lot of tattooer friends. Even if they don't get a shirt going, we always try to build content, you know, just like you are, you know, like,
yeah.
I'd love to get some photo shoots with you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, you got your own clothing brand now, don't you?
Well, we got the Peaks merch, like my shop
Oh,
stuff
it's
and
shop
stuff
shirt,
like that.
okay.
What did you see that you were talking about? What
clothing
stuff? Yeah, what are you talking
I
about?
thought I saw, it could have been a month or a year, 2 years ago, but I thought maybe I saw you promoting like some clothes, but maybe just a shop merch.
So a couple of my guys in my shop actually started a clothing brand called Winsome, and they were doing really good, and I was probably promoting that a little bit. And then shop merch. We want to go deeper into the clothing and stuff, but man, that's like a whole thing in itself, dude. Like, especially if you're buying all of your stuff, if you don't have like a manufacturer that's going to manufacture as they order, you have to put out a lot of money to get this shit in, right? And I don't think a lot of people understand how much of an investment it is to go. They're like, oh, you should do your own sweaters and jackets and this and that. I'm like, yeah, bro, you got fucking $50,000 to go get this first run. And it's like a lot, right?
It's a lot. And I'm not a hater, you know, like anytime someone comes to me and asks for my advice, like there's room for everybody. But at the same time, I'm going to tell them it's a bad investment. You know, like clothing's a tough investment. Sure, if it's, you know, shop merch, you can always sell those.
But that's different. I see those differently.
Yeah. But if you're trying to have a brand, you know, and like when you first asked me at the beginning, you know, explain who I am in a few sentences, like I feel like that's what a brand needs to do.
100%.
It needs to have a story, and you need to be able to tell that story in like 3 sentences, you know, whether you're the, you know, the emo hip hop brand, or you're the tattoo art brand, or, you know, you're the punk rock skate brand. Like everyone's got a vibe,
right?
And it is a pain in the ass, but that's part of the reason for our success, because a lot of tattooers will get shop merch going and they get so frustrated how bad it comes back, like their art doesn't come back well, whereas a lot of times they'll give their art to Ryan, and by the time Ryan prints it on a shirt, they're like, I like the art better than when I gave it to him. He's able to, you know, sprinkle his magic dust on it. But yeah, man, just like we were talking about with this podcast, excuse me, nobody, and this is what I love hanging out with my entrepreneur friends or just people doing different things. Nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. Nobody knows how much work you put into getting here.
Right.
Booking the flights, the hotels, all this equipment, your crew. Yeah. Nobody knows. Any entrepreneur, you know, it's like the behind the scenes. Nobody knows what you got to go through. Opening your own shop.
Dude, that's been the craziest journey ever. Right. And 5 years ago when I was here.
Grown up shit.
Dude, 5 years ago when I was here, I was still in someone else's shop. And going through that process, especially going as big as we did, because I got like a 5,000 square foot building, and it's not just like a rectangle that you throw furniture in. Yeah. Like we had to do a lot to it, right? And through that journey with contractors and blueprints and permits and all this crazy stuff, I learned a lot. It took us a year to build out the building to where it's at today, and we still got a little more to do. But I learned a lot of stuff the hard way, which I'm thankful for, because it's like experience money can't buy. Mm-hmm. And I tell a lot of people when they want to start their own shop, I'm like, don't just like, some people think stuff sounds really cool just because it just sounds cool. But when you go through the actual reality of doing it, and then what you get out of it versus what your responsibilities are, you kind of got to gauge what kind of responsibilities you want for the outcome, you know? And
that's what you learned the hard way, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And so even doing this podcast, it's hard because I have to invest in this podcast, but I have the shop to worry about and all of that stuff. And I have to keep the guys going. You know, we just had 2 guys leave. Shit that you don't, like, people don't know about that you have to deal with, right? And then a lot of the guys I'm friends with, so you got to deal with the dynamic of them being the artist and being your friends and shit. And so that's a hard thing to check, right?
There's a lot of tattooers that don't like being shop owners. You know, there's a lot of tattooers you'd think by now you'd have your own shop, and they're like, I did it once, I hated it.
Yep.
I just rather tattoo.
Yep.
I don't want to babysit. I don't want to manage. I don't want to have to order everything. I don't want to have to pay the bills and fix the leaky pipes.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not for everybody. A lot of, you know, you and my partner Ryan, you know, like for artists, you know, you guys are able to really wrap your head around it all rather than just, you know, what is it? Artists use what, right side of their brain, I think.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, I forget.
You know
too,
what I mean?
But yeah, for sure. But and I also went a more ambitious track with our shop because I've worked in different shops that were either not supportive or, you know, some shops wouldn't even tag me in my own work on the shop page.
Interesting.
Or some shops will even charge you for them to post you on the page,
I've heard
which
that.
is nuts to
I've
me.
heard that.
I'm like, bro, this doesn't make sense. If the artist gets booked out and they're tattooing, the shop makes money. So why would you charge the artist to... It just doesn't make sense to me, right? So I've always been in stuff where I wanted to do stuff like content, even the shop I was at 5 years ago, all this stuff that just didn't really like me doing the extra stuff. It's almost like you want an artist to be like, hey, just sit down, shut up and tattoo, and then go home, come back and tattoo. Like that's ideally what some people would want.
Yeah.
In my environment, I wanted to breed it to be like, hey, I'm supportive of you building your own personal brand. I want you to be known on your own. I want people to know, hey, Jack, we have Jack in the back. I want him to start doing his own shit so that people are like, hey, that's Jack. Oh, and he works at Peaks and Valleys. You know, like I'm okay with that because if we have a team full of people that are entrepreneurial in their mindset and they really take it serious and they want to connect with people aside from them just posting their work, I want them to get in that mode because it makes the shop look like a conglomerate of people that are really on the same page.
Absolutely. As long as they're showing up on time and, you know, turning their drops and customer service is on point and all that, you know, like doing their part. Yeah. Especially in today's world, you know, today's world, everyone's brand building.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you stand out, right? That's the tough part, right? But that's also what helps about us all being together because we could brainstorm off each other. Not only in that, but in tattooing, a huge part of it is it's hard for me to hire an artist that is already top tier that doesn't already have their own shit going on. Yeah. And then you have to compete with the fact that they probably pay fucking nothing in booth rent because they have a good situation. Maybe they're partners in a shop with someone who's really fucking good has already got a good situation most of the time. So my way to combat that is I bring in young artists that are at a certain skill level.
Diamonds in the rough that you know you can teach.
Yes.
And they'll absorb it.
Yes.
And you guys can grow together.
Yes. Jack is a great example of that.
Jack's the one I met earlier?
Yes. Yes, sir. And he came along. He got tattooed at our shop by one of my artists and stuff, and I met him. Didn't even know he was a tattoo artist. And then I found out he was, and I looked at his work. I was like, okay, he's pretty good.
He came in there, got tattooed, didn't even say anything about tattooing?
Well, funny story, he's actually been kind of like following me for a long time. He actually messaged me years ago, and I didn't even read the message, so that was a funny thing to talk about when we met each other. And but his energy was so good, right? Off the bat, like when I was talking to him, and I could relate to a lot of stuff he was saying, and it was just I just got a good energy from it. And then I also tried to gauge if I were to tell him something like, hey, you need to make this bigger in your design so the proportion is better, and then also you got to contrast that a little better and put black there, or like something specific, like tattoo language. If I told him to do it, would he do it? I had him guest spot and stuff. I told him some tips. He did it. And ever since then, and ever since we hired him, as soon as I knew that he could be moldable, I was like, okay, as long as he takes my advice and shit, he could, in 6 months, he'll be a different artist. And that's exactly what happened. Because
it did?
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like, I could even show you some work that he did before he came with us and a work that he did 6 months in. Like, the first tattoo he ever did at Peaks was his best tattoo because he had direction. He had someone to be like, adjust what he's doing. Because before that, you work in a shop where no one talks to each other about technique. Right. They don't want to step on each other's toes. But in our shop, the environment's different. We will we'll dance on your toes as long as it means that you're doing better decisions and stuff like that, right? Plus, the style that we do has like specific system on how you get the look. And I have it down so packed in my head that it flows out. So when someone asks me a question about, especially about black and gray, but tattooing in general, it just flows out, dude. And I'm so blessed to have gotten to that point.
It's a good system. It makes for some killer sleeves.
Yeah, man. And it's like even designing to application and all of that. So anybody that we bring on, I try to give them everything they need to succeed. Also at our shop, I provide everything. I provide the needles. I provide everything but your machine, because I wanted it to be like, hey, you don't got to worry about shit. Like our manager's going to book you. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. Aftercare, you can give it to your client for free. Like, and we use Tattoo Lovers because we've been with them since they first started and stuff. So we're kind of loyal to them and stuff. But
how many guys you got in the shop tattooing?
Just before these 2 guys left, we had about 11. Now we have about 9. One guy is moving from Alaska. He starts in September, and he's moving his family from Alaska to come work with us in Sacramento. And he's a great we got lucky with him. He's a great artist. His name is Jeremy Doty. He's a great artist already, but he's so humble that he doesn't even know he's good, which is crazy to us. We're like, dude, this guy's so nice. He's so humble. He doesn't even know how good he is. And he's going to be even better after he gets here. So those are like ideal people that you would look out for, right? Because they're humble and moldable and stuff, right? And then they could become an even better person through the purpose of tattooing and being around people that are in the same mind frame.
Maybe sometimes he said he has a family. He's married with kids.
He has a wife and a daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know that he's probably not a party animal.
Right. Which is actually stuff that we have to deal with, right? You got to see where in someone's life are they and what their motivations are, and that's kind of what we have to
it's
deal
unfortunate
with.
You already know the tattooers and like traveling musicians, rock stars almost go hand in hand.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
like you're getting attention, you're getting free drugs, you're getting people wanting to party with you. It's easy. There's a lot of addiction in the tattoo world, and now I got tattooer friends in their 40s deciding to go get addicted on drugs. Like, man, you're supposed to do that when you're a kid.
40s, bro.
What are you doing? Like, dude, you're on top of the world and you're gonna lose it all on this.
Why do you think that is, though? Do you think it's like a call to something more exciting during like a mundane life? Because I feel like some people just get stuck in their life and then they just see exciting shit and they're like, I just want to go do that and just fucking drop everything.
I think it's what do you call it? Like maybe gateway drugs, because I've seen it progress from some tattooers. Maybe they're just smoking weed and drinking a little bit, and then a couple years later, they're taking some Norcos, and then 2 years later they're on heroin, or it started off a little bit of blow and now they're doing meth. I feel like just some people have those addictive personalities. Thank God I don't, but a lot of them just have that addictive personality where it just progresses to something that you get lost.
Yeah, and I think that addiction could also, it doesn't just have to only be stuff, but I think like you could be kind of addicted to alcohol and kind of addicted to the excitement of like partying and like that type of shit. And the combination of those two makes for a good chunk of your life. And it ends up being like your motivation, right? You're doing this tattoo to get some money so you can go there and then do this fucking crazy partying and shit. But I tried to, because I've gone through my phase, obviously, right? But I also have such a different perspective on life because of the way I came up that sometimes when I was younger, I felt like I was missing out on the exciting parts of life. And then as I got older, I realized that that's not like what real life is. That's not where the real substance of life, where satisfaction comes from, is. And it's good to do that stuff every once in a while. But if that's what you live for, bro, it's almost like you're getting these spikes of dopamine all the time when you're doing these things. And then when you're not doing them, you feel like shit. Your life ain't shit. You're just like, man, if I'm not partying or I'm not like drinking and shit, I just feel like I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, but you got a head start. Like Gary V's of the world will sit there and tell you, fuck off and party while you're in your 20s. Your 20s is when you're just
He's like,
have
you're
a good
42,
time.
you're young. That's what he says. He's like, you're fucking just starting. And I'm like, I get what he's saying.
But at the same time, like, I partied hard in my 20s. Even though we started Sullen, I think I was like 25. But we were partying while we were doing it. But it was kind of part of getting the word out.
Right, 100%.
Your 30s is when you're really kind of figuring things out, but you're ahead of the game, and then a lot of times late 30s and 40s is when, the money starts coming in, so yeah, man, you got a head start. You're an old soul.
Yeah, man. Sometimes it feels like a gift and a curse, right? But
there's plenty of times, like sometimes on people ask me like, like what my hobbies are.
Yeah.
For what we do, I don't tattoo, but we're in the same industry. We get to hang out with our friends. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go to dive bars. I don't really hang out with friends. I work my ass off. I travel a lot, but these are my friends. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like some dork that doesn't have hobbies because I get to hang out with all these creative, cool people all over the world.
Yeah.
And me and my wife like traveling. I try to take my wife to as many places as I can. I'm trying to check those places off the list. I love
You seem
traveling.
busy, bro. You seem like you're all over the place. You're even, a few days ago you were doing something, and then you're going to the convention this weekend, I think. Am I right?
San Diego.
Dude, how do you keep up with that level of movement and like capacity in your mind? Because a lot of people struggle with this, having that many moving parts and being able to like function and constantly be on the go.
I'm just always trying to figure out how to not have stress, anxiety, lose my mind. I live in Huntington Beach, and at least a few days a week, I want to go to the beach, the cliffs,
Right.
even if it's just to see it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'll go there, I'll pray, I'll meditate, I'll breathe, I'll stretch, I'll just take it all in, and just not only that, but I've told a lot of my tattooer friends that get anxiety about the Calm app. It's a meditation app. You familiar with that?
100%. Yeah.
You know what I
100%.
mean? Like, I use that so much, whether I need to calm my ass down, if I can't sleep at night. They got ones you can click if you wake up in the middle of the night and you just got some lady with a sweet British accent, talking you back to sleep,
Yeah.
or walking you through how to breathe through this situation. And of course, you learn how to meditate, but I mean, meditation, gym, and now in my older age, I'm real big on sleep. I used to be
Huge
like,
on sleep.
4 a.m., 5 a.m. Don't get me wrong, I've never been an early riser, but I used to say, fuck it, I can sleep when I'm dead. Whereas now I keep hearing, all these things about how lack of sleep, could lead to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's, all these
Shortening of life in general.
yeah.
Too.
So now I'm like, I'm okay with sleeping in an extra hour if, cause I want to make sure I get those 6-7 hours sleep. So I'm just trying not to lose my mind,
No, and I relate to that a lot, and I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't know if you were into meditation and all of that stuff. But because there's a lot of people that hear that initially and they're just off put by it because they think of it as like woo woo, right? But it's 100% real. And what I preach to artists that want to like get bigger and do better, I'm like, it's a lot about balance, about centering yourself and being able to calm yourself so you could be more effective at what you're doing. And a lot of the artists, especially when they're coming up, they're very tunnel vision. They're very head down tattooing, which is a good thing. But I remember a time in my career when I was doing that. I would wake up, I would have a large coffee, go to the shop, draw, put the stencil on, tattoo for ungodly amounts of hours, go home and realize I hadn't eaten a single thing.
Yes.
And I only had coffee, no water. Dehydrated, malnourished. I was skinny as shit, and I felt so unhealthy.
You guys are bad for that.
It's fucking, and your back and shit and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
or you're ordering, fast food delivered
Crap.
every day,
Crap.
Yeah, you're still young. You don't have to worry about it quite so much. But the fact that you're even talking about it, shows. But yeah, I'm a big sauna guy. I
Saunas are so fucking
love saunas, man. I preach saunas all the time. It's like you sit in a sauna for 30 minutes. I think I read it's equivalent to running like 5 miles,
Right.
Your heart rate's up, you're sweating, your skin's your biggest organ on your body.
And it lowers your risk at like certain heart
Oh yeah, heart
deficiencies.
disease, high blood.
by a lot.
Oh yeah, and they say if you go to the sauna like 3 days a week for X amount of years, it can add like 5 to 10 years onto your life.
Which is crazy. And then some people I don't think know the value of lengthening your life until you start getting older, and then you're like, damn. Wait, I wasn't doing anything to help this along, and now I'm getting older, and I feel older. Like they're gonna get in their 40s, and they're gonna feel like they're 60, And that's what I never wanted for myself. And I think just to sum it all up, I try to preach self-care to people because a lot of people think that self-care is secondary to everything else, when I would say it's first, and then everything else comes after that.
It's unfortunate a lot of people learn too late.
Yeah, dude. And then even, you got a family and you have friends and stuff. I feel like the better your self-care is, the better you show up for those people in their life, and you're more effective. And I feel like a big thing for me has always been I wanted to be a more effective human for other people. And then that first happens with how I treat myself, and then it relates to how you treat other people. You can't really pour into anybody else unless your own cup is full.
Right, and not only that, but like I need to have a clear head. Like I've gone through I've had some personal family stuff going on, with like addiction and having to put family members in rehab and having teenagers and, a depressed daughter and stuff. And it's just like some people would hit the bottle or go to the bars and stuff. But for me, like when life gets hard, I stay sober because it's just like, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? You know, like sometimes when it rains, it pours. It's the truth. Just like, really, God, you're going to throw this at me now too? Like there's times where so much bullshit's coming my way, but that's what makes you the man that you are in the future. And I try to realize that, and just, it almost helps me get past it. It's just like, okay, it's a storm. It will pass.
Right.
But figuring out how to get through that storm or over that wall or around that wall, that's what makes, you know, successful entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? You gotta go through that to get where you are. You know?
Yeah, it makes you stronger, and then you want to get out on the other side of that without being like beat yourself down into the ground the whole time, where you're just like, oh, my life sucks. Fucking
no,
shit
you gotta
keeps happening.
You gotta be a warrior. You gotta put your warrior mask on and be like, all right, motherfuckers, you're gonna be throwing bullshit at me. Let's handle this. You know, so it's like I'll stay. I almost like I party to celebrate. You know, if I'm at a wedding or somewhere and it's a reason to celebrate, but I won't drink because I'm having a bad day. Like that's not.
That's
the way
even worse, because your motivations to drink turn into a negative thing, and then you start associating drinking with anything negative. And
then you wake up hungover, and now you still got that problem you got to deal with, but now you got a hangover. Like,
and then life becomes like one big sigh, like where you're just like,
get me
like,
away.
Fuck, dude, like I gotta do this. And it's like, yeah, you lose all your resiliency and shit like that. So yeah, that's a huge part for me, just being effective and stuff for other people, staying centered, staying calm, becoming stronger as I get older and not weaker and stuff. I mean, even physically, like working out is such a huge thing, not only for your mental peace, but I've always just wanted to like be healthy and shit like that, because I grew up with no example of that. Didn't have a dad, didn't have any figures to tell me that like, hey, you need to be a man, you need to be strong. But as I got older, I got more mentors and stuff like that, which I'm super gracious for. And, you know, one of them said, like, a bomb could go off right now, and the dust would settle, and I'd be in the center of that sipping my coffee. I would just be right there, just fucking calm as shit, just fucking let it all happen. I got it. And I respect that type of resiliency, because there's so much that you can go through in life, and you come out on the other end of it victorious, you know. And you can do that for other people too, because I'm sure you're the backbone for a lot of your family and stuff like that. Like you said, you're helping them with their addictions and rehab and stuff. I'm that for my family as well, not specifically like rehab and shit, but the only reason my family is still not homeless or still not poor is only because I tattoo. There's nothing else that's been changed other than that I tattoo, right? So I have to put up with the fact that it's not like I'm just making money for myself or doing better for myself. It's like, setting an example for my siblings and my nephews and my mom, my sisters and stuff, and providing them with what I can to at least keep them not on the fucking bottom of the barrel, you know? And I know that's a slippery slope when you start helping family members. I'm sure you dealt with this, but you start helping family members and it becomes a regular thing, and it becomes something they rely on. And then you can't escape it. Now you're helping 10 different people.
Yeah.
That's the hard one to balance for me, you know?
Yeah. You wanna help, but at the same time they gotta help themselves.
Yeah. And that's tough. My mom's a little different though. I feel like my mom has done so much for me when I was younger that it's like I'm almost repaying her efforts out of her life to get me to where I'm at today. And although I didn't have the greatest childhood, she was always there to keep me safe and shit. So I could give my mom everything and I still wouldn't blink about it, you know?
It sucks to say, but like if you got cancer tomorrow, you know, and you're in the hospital, a lot of your friends aren't going to show up, or people that you thought were your friends. Your family are the ones that are going to be there for you. You know, even if you're mad at a brother, sister, cousin, all of a sudden when life happens, they're going to be there. You know, your family's the only people that are going to really be there when we're on our deathbeds. You know, and it's unfortunate, you know, like friendships, you know, especially me being in my 40s now, like you realize you have to nurture friendships, you know, like,
right.
And I'm real big on like, I'm big on reading. I like reading, whether it's Quora or different things where like old people on their deathbed, like say a nurse, a hospice nurse. This is a nurse who deals with people dying, and you know, she talks to all these old people. Never, ever, ever do you hear these old people say, I wish I would have worked harder. They never say that.
They never say that.
They always say, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have kept my friendships, because there's so many friendships that just diminish, you know, and whether you still got their number or social media or not, like they fall apart. You know, friendships, you got to really, nurture them to keep them going. You got to water your grass. Yeah.
And the only thing that I found difficult about that is a lot of my friends that I end up developing are people that I work with. And same with you too, right? But that's also why being like a shop owner and then having your artists be your friends, and the most people I'm around, like the majority of the time, is those people. You become friends with them, but then there's like a different dynamic amongst it where it could just become bad.
I learned the hard way. I used to try to get everyone together.
Yeah.
And whether you're out having drinks somewhere, you're celebrating, or like my parents got 20 acres out in Temecula, and one time we had like all of our staff out there, and you're sitting there drinking beers around the fire or whatever, and all of a sudden I realized, and it happened once, twice, and then once it happened 5 times, I'm like, all right, I got to fix this. But people start wanting to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Like they get a few beers in them and they want to start talking about why they haven't got a raise, or why, these business conversations. It's like, oh man, we were having a good time. Now you want to sit here. And there's so many of my employees that didn't realize that was inappropriate. And once it started happening so many times, I realized, damn it, I can't drink with my employees anymore.
Yeah.
I used to want it to be a big family vibe and we all got along. We were friends after work. But then they'd want to talk about these things that I didn't want to talk about. It's like, I got 6 beers in me, and you want to talk to me about how you don't like this person at work or what? You know what I mean? Like,
and the only reason you're talking about it now is because you felt loose enough to open up.
They got one-on-one time, or they got this moment where they can talk to me, or sometimes I'm really going to open up and tell Jeremy how I feel. It's just like, no. Yeah. Now I don't want to hang out with you after work anymore.
Now it's weird and shit.
Yeah, that's something you talk to me when we're sober, and we plan it. You don't hit me up on this grievance or whatever in front of people, or thinking you're not getting paid enough or whatever it was. So things like that, I learned the hard way.
Well, the problem is like, that communication is key in any type of relationship, right? And I've always preached that. You can preach that to your people all day long until something uncomfortable happens that needs to be communicated, and different people's tolerances for how well they handle those conversations varies, and it's a spectrum. So even though I preach, or you preach, or someone preach communication amongst a group, when something really needs to be said, they're going to hold it in, and then it festers, and then it becomes a mutiny, and then it becomes something bigger than it needed to be. And now you're bringing up shit from a year ago that you didn't like happen, but you never told me about it. But now it's the reason. Now it's the reason that everything's falling apart because of it.
There's so many times an employee will quit for something better or more pay, but it's like, if you would have asked for that, I would have gave it to you.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's something I learned early. You have to ask for it. And I tell everyone, anyone that I work with, I'll tell them, if there's ever anything I can do to help, feel free. Always open door, open phone policy.
Right.
The worst I can say is no. But I don't mind you asking for anything, because sometimes there's ways I can help people, and it's right here on my lap. And, whether it's a contact or a quick phone call to somebody, like there's ways I can help them. Worst I can say is no.
Right.
But yeah, I learned that luckily early in age, where you have to ask for it. You have to put it out in the universe.
And don't just assume the person's reaction too, because like if you're going to assume the way I would react to it, like, oh, he's never going to say yes to that, so I'm just going to hold on to this as a problem. And it's like, well, that could have just been solved so easily. But, I think that some people also self-sabotage a situation if they also, speaking specifically to people that want to go do a different situation, if you want to go and like experience something different, that's totally, of course you would support that, right? But then they feel like they have to justify to you why they want to go do that. And then they start pulling out just random shit, like grabbing at straws.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so they sleep better at night.
Right. So I feel like, don't even give me a justification. I don't need one. If it's just that you want to go experience different stuff, that's fucking fine with me. As long as you do it in the right way and you give me a heads up and all that type of stuff.
And I'm not saying this is right, but if somebody isn't asking for a raise, a lot of times they don't get a raise. You know what I mean? Like 100%. There's a lot of people that will work 10 years and they don't ever ask for a raise. Maybe they deserve a raise. Maybe I'm guilty of not giving them a raise, but unless you ask for it, sometimes, the machine keeps moving.
Well, the life keeps going. You have your own personal life, then you have work life, and it's like they think that they're not necessarily on, their situation isn't necessarily on your mind 100% of the time, where you're just like, maybe I should give them a raise.
Yeah, the out of sight, out of mind thing is real.
Yeah, and it's not that your intentions are bad. It's that it's just not on your mind.
Yes.
So when they bring it up as a problem, it becomes like, wow, this is out of nowhere because I had no idea you were thinking like this.
thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Let's see what we could do about it.
Exactly.
You know? And as I get older and I do the business and stuff, and I'm sure I'll deal with it more in the future, but that's just something I have to learn, you know, and you have to learn from a situation, take that, and then handle the next situation better, And that's just the cold reality of learning those hard lessons is you have to go through them and then apply them on the next time. And you could sit there and reflect and be like, damn, I wish I handled that differently. But it's like, well, you didn't really know. You have to go on to the next one.
And these kind of conversations are good for maybe other tattooers out there that are thinking of opening up a shop. You know, like I said, I don't care if it's, you know, some of these famous musicians I told you that roll through here to get on Jose's show. But when you get to know them, you realize like they're just real people, and the behind the scenes shit that happens, no one knows what it really takes. No one really knows what you went through to get where you are. Because I'm sure you got people that are jealous, you know, oh, this guy, he's doing this and that, you know. It's like, that's right, he's doing it. You know, like it never is what, you know, the behind the scenes. That's just real interesting to me. I don't care what type of business it is, but when you get to know someone behind the scenes, you're like, oh, okay, those are the lumps and bruises you took.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you went through that and this and that, you know, like that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's all about managing people more than it is managing anything else. And then you have everything else on top of that. So it's like some people could simplify the situation and be like, oh, all you need is a building and to get passed by the health department, and then you just tattoo. What's the big deal? I'm like, yeah, okay. Well,
sure, buddy.
Sure. But, you know, when you, especially if you want to do something different and like ambitious and you're dealing with a lot of people and stuff, it's like, yeah, you're going to have to go through those lumps and bruises and stuff. I don't feel like a lot of people understand that. But off topic to another thing that we were talking about, I 100% want to do a collab Sullen shirt.
You got any ideas?
I mean, I could start putting some shit together, and then you could show it to Ryan and see if he's inspired by it.
I'd love to wear your
I feel like that's how it's gonna have to go, because you said he's picky and stuff like that. I feel like we just gotta find like a good middle ground where he feels like, oh, this is.
There are times, not very often, but there are times where if I send him art, you know, there'll be a paragraph with it, and I'll give him a reason of why I would personally like this person to get a shirt going.
You gotta explain the inspiration. Like,
he already knows who you are, though.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like, I don't know if have you met. I don't know if you have.
I'm asking you. You're asking me. I don't know, dude. Because if
I told you he don't go to the conventions. He's a quiet, shy, introverted kind of guy. If you get him on a conversation that he likes, he'll talk your ear off.
Yeah.
But I know he's very familiar with you. Actually, he sent me one of your.
No, he did.
He did. I swear to God, he sent me one of your Q&As, and I was like, yeah, he's the homie.
Damn.
And I think he's like, yeah, I know. But what he does, like, he'll DM me. He'll DM me on Sullen because I'm guilty of not checking my personal DMs because I'm engulfed in Sullen social media
I've DM'd
world.
you on your personal one.
It probably got unread. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
But you have a better chance of getting a hold of me on Sullen. But he'll send me just different stuff, and sometimes it won't even say anything. He just wants me to see it. But he did. He sent me one of your Q&As.
That's fucking cool, dude.
Yeah. So you're on his radar. I don't even need to give any emphasis. He knows that you and I are friends. So I'm sure he'd be happy to get a shirt going with you, you know, as long as the art was there, you know, and I've even heard him say, you know, like he's down to do, you know, collaborations, you know, bounce the art back and forth, but let's do it, man.
Yeah, that'd be sick, dude. And that's cool how he was sending you that stuff. I don't really know how much this reaches the right people and stuff like that. And, you know, you get kind of too stuck on likes and views when you don't realize. A lot of people don't realize even if something only got like 100 likes, the 100 people that did like it, bro, that's if we put 100 people in this room, it would be a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And then it's like amongst those 100 people, you're like, oh damn, shit, that's. So then you got to.
Or when you, I don't do this often, or if you go and you see who the people are,
yeah,
they're liking it, you know. And
I do that
not only
sometimes.
that, but like Instagram picks and chooses when they want to open up the floodgates.
That's
so
the hard part.
This could be the greatest clip that deserves to have eyes on it, but that day, you know, or maybe you posted a flyer the day before, which turns your algorithm engagement down. Who knows? You know, like, who knows? Like sometimes some clip that you didn't think is going to go off goes off, and vice versa.
Dude, the randomest clips that I have are the ones that go off. Obviously, the Respect the OGs one makes sense, but then there's some shit about like what stencil printer we use, and I did 500,000 fucking.
That was one that popped off.
One of them. We had a few that popped off and shit, but I try to get into the mode where I'm not focused on the virality. I'm more focused on just putting out consistent good shit.
That's what I tell people. So many people are like, insecure. And I'm like, and that's where I've brought you up a number of times. I'm like, go on Shine's page. Like, he's put out so much different content, but that's what you got to do. You have to try it out.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't work, you can delete it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But try different things and see what works, and you'll find yourself that way. But you're not gonna find out what works not posting. I just tell people, like, post once a day, figure it out, figure out what content, but post once a day, every day, and a year from now you'll be doing a lot better.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that social media guys, like, they see me as like a social media guy. I don't even really see myself like that, because they think their excuse is like, oh, I live in real life and you live on the internet. And I'm like, bro, first of all, I have people that post shit for me. I don't not be like on it that much like that, like you would think. But at the same time, it's like their perspective on someone that does content is so skewed, because you have no idea how hard it is to go ahead and put yourself out there. And even if you didn't agree with my opinion, me putting that opinion out there was hard enough in itself, let alone having strangers comment on it and like judge everything about your being and your character just by what they see. Some people think they know exactly who I am by the things, and they're totally wrong.
No, man, I've been impressed. I'll sit there and listen. I'll be like, boom, he nailed it. And then another one, like, ding, he got it again. Like, I feel like so much of the stuff that you're spitting, I agree with. And you can tell that you're knowledgeable, and you can tell you've already been around the block, and you've taken your lumps and bruises,
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there, and so many people are scared to do it, including myself.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And I think what's cool about getting a little broader than just talking about like how to pack black and shit like that, I feel like getting a little bit more broader about life stuff, because it all integrates into how well you do your profession, is what's going to change the game. Because I don't feel like there's a lot of people in tattoo. Andy Foe does a really good job. He's starting to do this. It's just, there's stuff around tattooing, around that is more a part of your outside life that makes everything better. And I want to preach that to people, and then try to grow myself into an example of it. I wouldn't say I'm like the epitome of anything right now, right? Because I have my faults and stuff. But it gives me a sense of purpose to be able to try to grow into someone who's very consistent and strong, physically, mentally, spiritually, all this stuff, so that I could be that example, or other people could be that example for young artists to be like, damn, I got into tattooing. I didn't even know this type of person existed. Someone who's like really like a respectable person all around, not just, oh, you're just good at tattooing and art, but you're out of shape and you beat your wife and you're fucking aggressive and you have anger issues and stuff. It's kind of cool to try to form that new archetype within tattooing that people could aspire to be, and it's like a positive thing.
Yeah. Andy Foe, he is killing it. He's like, sometimes seems like David Goggins of tattooing.
Right, and there's different styles of delivering it, right? And I'm not saying his style is my style of delivering it.
But he's doing it.
He's doing it.
It's
And
like, good
to
for
your
you.
point, he's doing it, regardless of how you feel about it. You could say that it's all motivational rah-rah without any, but bro, he's doing it, and I watch it and I like it. So I'm like,
it's better than not doing anything.
And
I like what he's doing, and I don't say that as like, oh, it's better than nothing, because what he's putting out there is good.
No,
But even if what he putting out wasn't that good, it's still better than nothing.
And what I like about Andy is he walks the walk.
Yeah.
And if he's telling you like, hey, you got to be consistent with your working out, otherwise your body's going to go to shit. This dude wakes up at fucking 4 a.m. every day, and he's fucking takes a video of himself working out in his garage. He goes on a run. Every single morning he'll do his like word of the day, and he's getting consistent. He's just starting to do that stuff, but he's already very consistent. And he's doing a lot. He even just went on, I'm kind of jealous. He went to like Wes Watson's, Wes Watson?
Yeah.
He went to his mansion mastermind thing.
Really?
Where he takes 10 people at a time. They go to his mansion and they have like this basically like.
I wonder what he paid for that.
$10K.
$10K, huh?
Yeah, I know that because I've asked about it and stuff. But, I mean.
I'm a Wes Watson fan. He's got some haters out there too, but
I love Wes Watson, dude.
He did it. He created it. Now he's that.
Exactly.
He might seem like a WWE wrestler screaming and spitting all the time, but
I saw some of his early videos where he first started yelling at the camera and shit. And yeah, it sounded a little off, but I think that's him finding his style of delivery.
Did you see his first videos? It was a different page where he was telling the prison stories.
Of course.
Yeah, like that's before he even like started doing the motivational stuff, but
Yeah, and I think I like what he does is he figured out, this is more on the business end, but he figured out a system on how to deliver the coaching to where it's super effective and it's super lucrative, and it requires less of him than other systems might do. So that's what he also teaches people, is how to coach people. So not only does he coach people on fitness and all that mindset stuff, but he also coaches people on how to coach people.
Oh, interesting.
So that's when I first connected with him and stuff. And one of my friends had paid him to do that, and he said it changed his whole outlook on how he does it. And I love it because I want to get into that too. Like, I've done everything for free. I don't charge anybody anything for anything. My free content is valuable. So now if I feel like I'm going to do something behind a paywall, it better be fucking valuable, you know? For even $1, it needs to be something that's really in-depth and something that people get value out of. But I've always been wondering, how do I package that to make it fair, make it like make sense, and make it, because like I would love to fucking replace a good chunk of my tattooing with teaching people how to do this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And become better people.
Especially when you get older.
Right, dude.
Because you have a physical job, you know, your back might not last.
Yeah, dude. And then a lot of tattoo artists, I think, as they get older, they're trying to grab at straws to figure out what they're going to do after tattooing. And it's a sad sight to see legends not know what the fuck they're going to do. And you can go bankrupt.
Trust me, a lot of my dear friends who are fucking legends are broke and trying to figure out how to get out of debt, and it breaks my heart. Ryan put together, it's been several years since we did it, but he put together, he got his financial advisor, and we had some dudes come up. We had like a gathering. It was all teaching tattooers, you know, pretty much like how to invest your money, how to get a 401k, you know, it was all this stuff because so many tattooers deal with cash and they don't save.
And they're financially illiterate.
Yeah, like NFL players or something, you know?
Yeah.
NFL players, you know, aren't they on average bankrupt 3 years after they're out of the NFL, you know?
Yeah.
Because you got all this cash and you're blowing it. And I see that. I see a lot of tattooers, you know, like making a ton of money renting a fucking mansion when you could buy a real nice home.
And own property and then expand your portfolio, do stuff. And like, there's ways to do things with your money to make it really good. I don't know if I ever told you yet, but the name of the podcast, this podcast is called The Hero and the Sage. And the reason why I call it that is because I've always been very into like old medieval mythological stories and stuff like that, and how the journey of, you know, like the journey of like that warrior that lived in a small village, and he gets this call to adventure, and then he goes out and seeks out wisdom to be able to go to accomplish this large goal. And I've always been enamored by the archetypes of the hero and the sage, the King Arthur and
now,
Merlin.
sage, what's the definition of sage?
Okay, so like, you know, King Arthur and Merlin, right? Like King Arthur would be the hero and Merlin would be the sage. The definition of sage in the dictionary is someone who lives a life of gather wisdom in order to pass it on to others. And it's basically like the guy along the way that points you in the right direction or gives you the gems that you need to accomplish what you're doing. Because there's two roles to play. There's the guy that's on the adventure, and there's the guy that's been through adventures that is there to give you the
almost
wisdom.
like Luke Skywalker and Yoda.
Yes, 100%. So in every story and in storytelling in general, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell explains the hero's journey perfectly. But in every story that you've ever heard, there's always been the hero and there's always been the sage. And then once you watch like even new shows or something, you're like, oh, okay, he's the hero. Oh, that's his sage. That's the person that's giving him the direction and stuff. So I call it the hero and the sage because it's like, it's like a really cool theme to a podcast that's not just like, oh, tattooing only, right? Because I'm going to interview people that aren't tattoo artists. But it's the act of gaining wisdom and then passing it on. So what's funny is a cool detail that we have here. In our logo, the colors that we have is like this teal and this orange. And then whoever in the podcast is considered the sage would get the teal, and whoever's the hero would get the orange. Sometimes I might be the sage. Sometimes I might be the hero learning.
And where's this color going to go? What is it?
Look.
The color of the lights.
Right now you have a teal color coming off of you right now, and I have an orange one. And it just kind of just like a little cool little touch to be like oh, he's the OG. He's the one that has the experience and the knowledge, and he's going to be passing on wisdom to the hero, whoever that is. But sometimes I might have people on that want to learn from me, and then I might be the sage in that situation. But yeah, it's just like a cool thing that it's more about like life in general and wisdom and just trying to grow as a human rather than just like, hey, how to run a 9-liner consistently on a back. Like it's just
the little things.
Yeah,
I like
dude.
that.
I just
like that.
I'm just like a student of life, bro, and I've always been attracted to wisdom. If I was alive in the medieval times, I would be that guy that's traveling the world just to like absorb as much, trying to go find that ancient library that has like the old scrolls, that has like the wisdom. That's always what I've been into.
Have you done much international traveling?
Nah, no, not damn near at all. And
You got your passport?
got my passport. I went to Colombia one time, but I went there to for a specific reason. I didn't really like have fun. I didn't explore anything.
Me too.
Really?
What part?
Cali.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you go there for?
They flew me out there to be a judge at the tattoo.
Shut up. And that was at Cali?
Yeah, Cali. Juan, he throws the Cali Tattoo Fest down there, and he brought me down there with a few other tattooer friends. And at first, I was a little nervous. I'm like, Colombia? And then you hear Cali, you know, that's where the cartel,
Right.
Cali cartel.
Yeah.
And my wife, you know, my wife's like a, you know, tall, skinny, good-looking blonde. And I'm like, I don't know, baby. I don't want to bring a blonde down to Colombia.
Just stand out like a sore thumb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, dude, I'm already, look at ain't many redheads out there. And she pretty much was like, nah, pussy, we're going. She's like, we're going. And we went, had a great time, but similar story. You know, it wasn't like I was out exploring. You know, a lot of my conventions are a Thursday to Monday thing. You try to run around town real quick and get your Instagram photos and see some of the stuff. But I remember leaving there, driving to the airport, and even like when the wheels went like this, I was like, whew, I made it.
Yeah.
I got out of Colombia.
Down to the last second.
And my Colombian distributor and friends down there, they're probably mad at me for saying that, you know, but Colombia, I was a little nervous down there just because.
Well, dude, they can't hide the fact that like the press about Colombia is very negative, and it's very like, in specifically where I was, Cali, Colombia, in this spot right here is a gang cartel war. And I'm like, bro, I was just right there.
You're based at you're looking at the mountain.
Yeah.
And they're out there in those hills.
Dude. Yeah.
You know, he took us out to dinner and it was up on the side of that mountain. I remember just like, we're creeping up on the mountain.
Yeah,
and it was, you know, it was a beautiful view, and he had like these
that's
famous.
cool you got to do that.
Oh yeah. He had a couple famous break dancers there, and it was great. You know, and his convention's cool. It's like a festival, so they have like MMA fights, concerts.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost borderline Music of Colombia because they had big name, you know, performers down there, and like I said, they had breakdancing competition and all this different stuff. And
well, you got to do something. That's pretty dope that you got to experience something cool out there. You know?
But I'll tell you what, just like you said, I feel like traveling is one of the best colleges ever.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I think Americans, you know, I've heard a lot of other people in other countries talk about how Americans never travel. And we're guilty of not traveling internationally. Like, I know a lot of Europeans and Asians are really good at saving their money, and it's normal for them to take a month off.
Yeah.
Like, they work 11 months a year. We don't do that here. We're workaholics in the States. But at the same time, the States, I mean, look at just the difference between Northern California and Southern California. Right. They're like two different states. Like, so it's almost like we have all these different countries within a country.
Right.
You know what I mean? The South in Manhattan are worlds apart.
Yeah.
You know, you get Middle America from the accents and the different ways of living. Like, America has so many different cultures all in one. But at the same time, when you can, start traveling internationally, because it's a trip to see, you know, see how other people live and how they do it differently. And it really does humble you and gives you humility and makes you come home and realize, like, you know, not everyone does things the way you do.
Yeah.
And there's other ways that work as well.
And especially the problems that you might trip off on a daily basis, and you're like, man, my problems are fucking.
Oh yeah.
Fucking. I was tripping on this, like, fuck, dude.
Well, yeah, going to Colombia or even, you know, Mexico, you know, and some of these third world countries, and you see them struggle. You know, like when my teenagers want to complain about something, it makes me want to take them with me to some of these other countries so they can see how good they have it.
Right.
You know, it's the truth. Well, I'll tell you one thing that's a trip though. Europe, Australia, South America. When you look on the tabloids and the magazines, it's all American stuff.
Yeah,
that's a trip too, though.
That's
like
crazy.
The world is engulfed in American culture.
Yeah.
So when you're in London and you see the Kardashians and Kanye and all the magazines, you're like, really?
Yeah.
Here in England too, you guys are all enthralled in Kanye and Kim Kardashian. You know, it's a trip. Like, the world knows what's going on here.
It's kind of funny because when I was doing YouTube heavy before, when I was just doing the vlogs, I actually had a lot of European like fans and stuff because they see it as such a world apart, and they're just so, like you said, they're so enamored with the U.S., the America way, and it's just like, damn, there's an influencer in America. And in America, it's like, oh, it's just another influencer. And then to them, it's like fucking Justin Bieber from that far, you know? And yeah, it's crazy. But to your point, I do need to get more international travel. I respect what you get out of it just out of theory because I haven't done it yet. But especially since everything I just explained of like what I want to do with my life and like what I want to absorb, that's like the key thing that I need to do next. But what I've always been trying to do is get that to align with whatever purpose I'm doing at the time. Like the podcast helps traveling. If I could go overseas and start doing podcasts with people overseas and have that as part of like the trip, and then you vlog it and just kind of get that whole feeling and then be able to pass it on to whoever's watching.
As you grow your podcast, you're going to have people wanting to bring you there. You know, they might start paying for these hotels and flights and booths because, you know, you're creating these conversations that people want to hear.
You know, 5 years ago you mentioned to me that, man, some of these fucking conventions will fly you out if you hit them up and blah blah blah. I've still never had that to this day. I just don't know.
Maybe you got to ask for it.
I think I've asked a couple of times, but then they're like, oh, you know, we're already kind of like full or whatever. So like that type of shit.
But I think that has to do relationship building, and I'm not saying, you know, you're standoffish, but anytime I'm at a show, I always want to know who the promoter is. I want him to know who I am.
I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to do that a lot more because I don't ever really know sometimes. But now we have friends that are like, oh, yeah, I know the guy that does this. Let me go introduce you to him. And we're making that more, like I said, when I go to conventions, I want to meet people. So that's a really good
Now, every time I see you at a convention, I'm going to put my arm around you and be like, I want to introduce you to the promoter of this show.
Yes, dude, please do it.
We'll go walk over.
Please.
And I'll hype you up, let him know all the stuff that you're doing. And, you know, even if he's quiet, he can at least hear it, absorb it. And then a lot of times, if they're not familiar with you, then they start seeing you're like, oh, I met him. Oh, there he is, you know?
Yeah, and even with people that are, because I met people like that are more quiet and they don't know who I am and they're like, yeah, whatever and shit. I know how to talk to those people too and not be overbearing. But you're right, from afar, even if they do know who you are, it's only in a certain perspective, right? So meeting them in person and getting a good interaction with somebody changes the whole game. And it's like if me and you never met and you could only go off of certain stuff that you see, you might form a different opinion. But I do feel like meeting each other in person and having conversations like, oh, I know how this guy is. He's fucking...
Well, Troy from Villain Arts is a good example, you know, like Troy.
I was supposed to meet him and I didn't get to him. The last day I was in
he's like Denver. My partner, Ryan. He's very quiet. He's very hard to read. You know, doesn't say a lot of words, so that intimidates people. You know, you don't know if he likes you or not. But at the same time, I know that at so many of his shows, he practically has like a reality television row. You know, like he's always hooked up a lot of the guys that have been on the television shows.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. So I mean, all the Ink Masters. There's like Ink Master row where all these guys, and it's from, you know, guys that have, you know, been off TV for 5
Yeah, they were
10 years.
on. Yeah, exactly. They were on.
Yeah, but they're still riding that 15 minutes. So
yeah, and I'm hoping to keep like a steady, like I might not be like Ink Master, but like fucking just a steady pace of just like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Nothing too crazy and shit. And as I grow the podcast, I think it'll be really fun to get a more dynamic.
What do you think about joining us in the Sullen booth one time?
Dude, I mean,
I know you got your shop and you got your team, you know. And the reason I ask, because a lot of times, like say, you know, Jess Yen, every convention he does, he's got his whole shop in the team. Big Sleeps, every time he has a booth, he's, you know, like some people don't just go solo. So I don't usually invite Big Sleeps or Jess Yen because I only got room for one person. But yeah, we should get you in the Sullen booth.
That'd be dope. There's plenty of conventions that like, unless everyone was on the same page about like, yeah, we want to go to that convention, then we'll do a booth that's like big and grand and stuff. But anything under that, if people are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to go to Empires, I don't know if I want to go to whatever, then sometimes, yeah, I'll just go. And I'd rather go than not go. So if those opportunities arise and I could be at the Sullen booth, like, dude, that would be amazing. Like, that would be fucking great, you know? So yeah, let's make that happen for sure.
Damn, I think we got this show in Miami coming up. And I talked to Emilio. Emilio, he throws a big convention down in Venezuela. He's well respected down in South America. Now he's got this one coming up in Miami. And I was supposed to have Freddie Negretti and his girlfriend Deja join us, and they had to back out. And then Emilio was like, "Don't worry about it. I got so many tattooers. Let me sell your booth because we're sold out." So we decided to opt out of having tattooers, but that would have been a good one because this show, it's called the All Stars, and Emilio's got it's similar to Golden State, but on another level. It's almost more like, you know, the London show or the new one that Mickey puts on in Germany, where it's just a lot of international, like, heavy hitters.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of international realism guys. Hop on the page. You know, I think he already sold the booth, but that would have been good to have you at that one.
Yeah, dude, that'd be tight. But anyone's like that, as long as I get a big enough heads up, and
Yeah.
then I'll for sure do it, and I think it'd be really cool. Yeah, dude, just getting more integrated with that. And you're right, we're building relationships more because I feel like I'm just now getting into the deep part of like knowing who these people are and stuff. Having people like you helps a lot because you could help me introduce me. And that's a different dynamic when someone they respect introduces the person rather than you just coming up and being like very overbearing in the face.
I pride myself on that. I've introduced a lot of people together,
Yeah.
and they'll know each other, but there's, you know, that sometimes you just need an introduction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're familiar with each other from across the room, but sometimes you just need that introduction.
And you
know?
create such an opportunity off of that one connection
Mhm.
that like so much shit could happen off that, or not, but like there's at least you connected, you played your part, and then it just opens up a big door, especially for me, especially with the podcast and this and that. Anybody you introduce me to, I'm super interested in, dude. Like I'm not like coming from a perspective where I'm too good to meet this person. I want to meet anybody that you feel like is worth meeting, especially.
I can tell. I feel that.
Yeah. And I know you're like, oh, you don't need my help, bro. Like, I don't need help. I'm just saying, like, I respect the help and I need it, like,
I got you.
in a capacity, you know?
I'd be happy to.
And I appreciate that. We have been going for a solid hour and 40 minutes, which is pretty
No
solid.
shit.
Yeah, dude, look right there. Yeah. What did it feel like? It felt like fucking.
It's like 5 years ago.
Yeah, dude, I know.
It's
So-
our anniversary. We talk each other's ear off.
That's why I knew this one was going to be good, and I didn't want to put a cap on it, like an hour or something.
Damn, hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, dude, you got to let it flow. I mean, that's what's crazy about like Joe Rogan's be going like 3-4 hours.
I know.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That's a lot, but I feel like we covered a lot of good shit. It was a great conversation, dude. And I'm so glad that you're the first episode. You're literally going to be posted as the first episode.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
And I just really want the first 10 episodes to really set the tone and the pace for people to understand what the fucking podcast is actually about. And it kind of have some, I think having you as the first episode is going to give us a lot of good credibility with a lot of people that know who you are in the industry. And then we'll branch out from there. But I feel like you're really respected, and I'm glad to have you on. And thank you for doing it, dude.
I'm humbled, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a good time. It's always good to talk to you, brother.
For sure, man. Let's wrap it up, and thanks again. Woo!
Hour and 40 minutes yapping each other's ear off.
And I only hear your voice in these, so it's like funny because I didn't hear nothing going on out here. It's